Protect your car with 3W Liners all-weather floor mats. Made from durable materials like TPE and rubber, our mats are designed to withstand rain, snow, and mud with deep grooves to trap dirt and liquids. For a custom fit and advanced protection, visit 3W Liners. That's the number 3, WLINERS.com today.
Relax with Hemp Delicious. Organically grown hemp, massively blended with delicious organic herbs, responsibly sourced for their holistic benefits. Each sip offers calming, antioxidant-rich wellness. Brewed just for you. Sip the calm with Hemp Delicious. Find your blend at hempdelicious.com.
Frozen heroes. Gonna tell you about frozen heroes. Gonna tell you about comic books, costumes, facts, boots, and other stuff.
In this week's issue, Superman for All Seasons, Part 2.
Welcome into Bros, Foes, and Heroes. I'm Zach, joined as always by the mighty man wonder himself, Mr. Mike.
Mighty Dog.
Mighty, were those like hot dogs?
Well, here's the thing. I was thinking, I think last episode I mentioned the Chuck Wagon guy.
Yeah, you did mention the Chuck Wagon
And what
guy.
I meant was Mighty Dog.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because we talked about the Super Globetrotters, or at least that's what I was thinking of when we were talking about. Well, no, because we also talked about there was a superhero group that you talked about.
Oh, yeah. The Mighty Heroes.
Yeah.
Rope Man, Baby Man.
Yeah, all those.
Cuckoo Man.
Welcome into Bros, Foes, and Heroes podcast where each week I, Zach, presents Mike with a comic book character or story or
a
just
conundrum
thing in general. Exactly. Last week, if you've already listened to it, you see this is part 2. So this is the follow-up and the conclusion to last week's, which was part 1 of Superman for All Seasons.
People in England are gonna hate this. Look at this.
Instead of like that, I mean, it's not like.
Well, they think it's that.
What, really?
Yeah, isn't that what that is in England?
I don't think so.
Okay,
I think that's one of those things that people tell you probably. Let me finish my thought real quick.
Well, it's for our audio pals. Is what I was saying.
Okay. Go ahead and explain what
no,
you're doing.
No, you're good. You're good.
I was just gonna say. Last week was spring and summer. This week we will conclude the story with fall and winter. Now, for our audio pals, if you want to explain what you were doing.
Audio pals, I was putting up 2 fingers for dose episode, right? The dose part of this. And I've always heard that like that in England is like the middle finger.
Do you think that's one of those like old wives' tales in a way where like people told you like, oh, that's what that means, and you not saying like you, but you hear those stories.
No, I get it. I can tell you that the pinky finger in Taiwan, where I was born, is the same as the middle finger here, because the middle finger there was good luck. That's what it meant, was good luck. And so there's a big statue in Taipei, Taiwan, again where I was born, with the middle finger just extended real big by some dignitary, And then my mother, a person who I heard cuss a total of 1 time, she always wanted to flip people off, but instead she would little finger them, just because it didn't mean the same here.
But it meant.
But it's like saying, it's like saying,
frick.
Shucks. Well, you mean shit. I mean, that's right. What's the difference?
Just go for it. There's an old. It's a terrible movie. Well, I take that back. It's just product of its times, but the premise is kind of stupid. It's a James Gardner and Jack Lemmon, and it was. I don't remember the name of the movie now, but they were like former presidents.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Somebody was trying to kill the former presidents.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
But there's a part where like he keeps saying like,
God almighty, Jack Lemmon and James Garner. Woo!
How do you like that pull?
Everybody out there that thinks I'm old, listen to that.
How do you like that pull, guys? Here's the thing, Mike.
Yeah.
Do you ever have those movies as a kid that you like watch a lot?
Oh, absolutely.
That was one of them.
Well, it probably came on USA a lot.
No, it was on
something.
HBO.
There you go.
But we taped it for some reason.
You taped it.
So, all right. We're gonna tell this story real quick, and then we'll get to Superman.
Let's go.
Whenever we'd get like free HBO weekends, sometimes my mom would just tape all the movies that would come on there,
that's
and then
what
we could go back and watch them later.
Nothing wrong with that.
For some reason, one of the weekends we had was that movie, and so I remember I watched it a lot as a kid. Another one that I watched a lot as a kid that I really
Wait,
love
so
now,
y'all taped them all
Cool
and then
Runnings.
you kept them? You kept these movies. This was your library of entertainment.
Yeah. Wait, what are we gonna do? Open up a video store?
No, I figured
Oh.
you just tape over them, but you kept them.
Oh, like reuse? No,
Yeah.
we bought more and we kept them. So we
I'm
had a
looking
lot
real
of
hard
movies.
for this movie, and I can't.
We
find
never
it for
had.
some
I'm
reason.
telling you, it's hold on.
I know what you're talking about, but I can't remember what it's called. It was in the '90s, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they were
hell-
both.
hold on.
It's My Fellow Americans.
Yes,
Yes.
Dan Aykroyd's in it too.
Dan Aykroyd, the
Nin-
man who killed every movie he's ever been in, was in it. with those
1996.
two, Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He plays President Russell P. Kramer.
Dan Aykroyd is one of those guys that.
Did I even bring up why I said that? I don't know if I did. Anyway, just real quick before we get to Dan Aykroyd, before we get off on that one,
Dan
I
Aykroyd.
brought up the movie because in it, when he talks around his wife, he always says "frick," and she tells him that if you're going to use the F word, go for the gold. So that's
Yeah.
just what I think of. So go
Yeah.
ahead.
Well, Dan
Aykroyd.
Dan Aykroyd's that guy to me that kills movies. He Ghostbusters, great because he had a lot of people to carry him. My Fellow Americans, I would be willing to bet, and I haven't seen this in forever, probably since the one time
He
I
has a
saw
small
it
role
at
in
a
it.
matinee.
It's a smaller
that he had a
role in
very small role in it, and the other guys carried it. If you look at
Harry is kind of.
if you look at Dan Aykroyd centric movies,
Uh-huh.
they're pretty much garbage.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
very Canadian.
I like Dan Aykroyd though.
Okay,
Okay.
that's fine.
I feel like I do. Anyway.
He's great in Ghostbusters
yeah.
because he
You keep
plays.
coming back to
he stays in that lane.
Ghostbusters.
But then think about The Great Outdoors with John Candy.
I watched that a lot as a kid too.
Well, that's what I'm saying, right?
Uncle Buck, right?
Well, yes, John Candy was Uncle Buck.
Yeah.
But I'm saying The Great Outdoors, here comes Dan Aykroyd. He's like this cocksure guy who comes in and he's just, oh, I'm Mr. Cool and all this stuff. It doesn't work. That guy never works as that character.
Yeah.
He always wants to be like Mr. Big Pants, but he's
Didn't
not.
they shoot the bear where it skinned its ass somehow?
I don't remember. It's awful. I just remember the
Anyway.
poster where John Candy is hanging upside down like a fish from Dan Aykroyd's fishing rod.
Oh.
That's all I remember.
Do you have that poster? with
No,
your
God,
evidence?
no.
Oh.
I wouldn't sully my house with that poster.
Anyway, today, as we talked about, we will finish our story.
Get all these comments. The Great Outdoors is the best movie I've ever seen. I've seen 3 movies.
It's that and Harry and the Hendersons are just like top
Harry and the
notch.
Hendersons. The Great Outdoors. Akira. That's it. Those are the 3 I like.
You just threw a Kira in there randomly.
It's just-
Oh, I love that. All right, so we will pick up with Fall, or book 3 of 4
Yeah.
of our story
Oh, I love this
of
cover.
Superman for All Seasons. As I let the cover get up there again, and I went ahead and
The cover's cool, though.
It is very cool. I love the team of Jeph Loeb and Tim Sell.
Has Luther always had an L-shaped building?
I don't know if he's always had some. I'm sure in some iterations.
I can see it, though. I mean, I can see him absolutely doing that.
Oh, for sure.
Makes total sense. It has no windows, but it makes sense.
The team on this, again, written by Jeph Loeb, artist is Tim Sell, letterers Richard Starkings, and the colorist is Bjarne Hansen. So, as we get into today's issue, remember, Mike, each issue is kind of narrated by
a different
somebody else.
character. Right.
Today,
You said this one was Luther.
this one is Luther, and then we have issue 4.
Uh-huh.
And so it starts off already.
That one is Dan Aykroyd.
Dan Aykroyd
Does
comes
the
back for
fourth
issue
one.
4, and it's really weird because he doesn't fit anywhere
He
in the
has
story.
nothing to do with the story, yeah. Dan Aykroyd here. I thought I'd give you my take.
The way Lex Luthor tells his side of the story, and it really fits for the character and it fits for the story.
It's an odd-looking Lex Luthor.
It
by the way.
is, but it
Yeah.
kind of works.
I
think
get it. It's
This
fine.
this is supposed to be a young Lex Luthor, so he still has the
Uh-huh.
hair before it's kind of. But
Wait, are we discounting what's his face in
Rosen-
Man of Steel?
Rosenberg.
Yeah. Wasn't
Oh, Jesse
Jesse
Eisenberg.
Eichenberg.
Yeah, but he had
Eisenberg,
hair at the beginning of it.
Eisenberg.
Eisenberg, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, he's like 28
Now
years old by the end of it.
Michael Rosenbaum in Smallville
Yeah,
had the shaved head the whole time.
yeah.
So.
They're all younger though, which is
Yeah.
weird to me.
Anyway, so this is kind of a younger Luthor here. But in his mind, when he tells this story, he tells his story as kind of like it's this love story between him and the city.
Okay.
everything he does, he's doing for the betterment of Metropolis.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
You know,
That's how he fools himself, basically.
yeah, he's like, this is a love story, not between a man and a woman, but between a man and his city.
Yeah.
And my city is Metropolis. And like all good love stories, it's full of betrayal, anger, tragedy, and revenge.
Sure.
So we open up fall to see that Lex Luthor has been released from prison.
Okay.
He has spent a night, just the night, but still, he has spent the night in jail.
Okay.
We come to find out it is from Superman, kind of having him arrested for things that he's done,
Okay.
and kind of showing that. Remember, I think we talked last issue in summer in his run-ins with Luthor. He's always made the comment about like somebody kind of needs to stand up to him, like nobody else is. So it's kind of a move of Superman standing up to Luthor.
Yeah,
then,
sure.
of like having him arrested then here. So we see him released from the police station, and all the media is there, obviously, because this is a big name guy.
Yeah.
Getting released from jail. And Lois is there. It's like, what was it like spending the night in jail? And he's just like, oh, nice to see you here, Lois. Nice all your colleagues to come here. Like, he's just playing it very calm. And he ends up boarding a plane or his helicopter to leave. And as he's leaving, Lois tells Jimmy to make sure he gets a good shot of his face, like the look that he had there.
Yeah.
And she says Superman may have thought getting Lex arrested was a cute stunt, but in shaming Lex, he may have gone too far. It's kind of what she tells him as we see the helicopter fly off. They're trying to get Lex's home as quickly as he can. He's ready to get home, but the pilots tell him, like, there's a situation here. As Superman's there to meet him already.
Yeah.
And it's Luthor like, what kind of situation? Oh, nothing to alarm you. Just, trying to get home safely. But Superman is just kind of sitting there watching him all the way home. Well, he gets back home. He takes a shower. And it's just him while we're listening to him still telling the story about the city of, like, I've grown accustomed to her face. My
Right.
city, enough.
Right.
Self-pity is enough. Like, because he's talking about how, like, she used to love me.
Well, he's
and then
talking
now
about the
she's
city like it's his lover.
like, exactly.
Yeah.
And now she's infatuated with someone else, talking
Yeah.
about Superman,
Yeah.
kind. Or in a way. And then he's like, but I don't have time for self-pity. That's for a lesser man. Like, even as a child, I understood the concept, and no one will ever pity Lex Luthor. And by the time he sits there and he's getting, like,
Straight razor.
a straight razor shaved, and he gets nicked.
Yeah.
And the barber, she's just like, oh, I'm so sorry. And he's like, no, there's nothing to be sorry about.
I love how the barber is in a kimono.
Really? Well, it's probably just like one of like Lex's girls.
Yeah, I think
guess
it's
what
just
it
a
was.
sexy person.
Yeah, but there's like
Sexy person.
his sexy person. He's like, there's nothing.
Send in my sexy person.
But this is very much like in a Lex Luthor tone of like he's trying to talk about how like the city seems to have forsaken him for some reason, but he's done nothing wrong like
Yeah.
in doing this.
Yeah.
And he goes after he gets cut, and she's like apologizing. He goes, "There's nothing to be sorry about. You made a mistake. I forgive you." It's like Lex Luthor just feeling like
2 in the
I
forehead.
forgive you.
Yeah.
Well, he's not like that. But he talks about the matter of their arrest must be attended to first. A snide comment from some shoe shine man will lead to giggling around the water cooler until a mountain of disrespect will be upon me.
True.
The right judges will have to be spoken to. Police captains will require a well-timed donation. Favors which I had other plans for will need to be called upon. Until finally, even those who were present last night will doubt it ever happened.
Oh, and there he
Leaving
comes.
only my rival. And there's a good shot of him like looking out the window
Uh-huh.
and Superman just floating there watching him outside the LexCorp tower.
Oh,
Where he's like,
boy.
yeah, not much of a challenge at all. So there's a back and forth between Superman and Luthor. And he's like, I'd invite you in for a drink, but, I can't imagine someone like you would, partake on that. And he goes, pity, like a stiff drink would probably do you well sometimes, help you relax a little bit. And he goes, long before you appeared here.
They just hate each other.
They do.
But I don't know why.
He goes, long
Really.
before you appeared here on the scene, I was here. I built Metropolis from an ordinary town into the most powerful city in the world. Enjoy the public's little infatuation with their new mascot while you can. Fame is fleeting, but Lex Luthor is forever. Which is kind of a damn
Goodness.
good line. We go back into LexCorp. You remember the biochemist from earlier who
Yeah.
had the Shrine of Superman?
Yeah.
Well, we now see that she is kind of there. Her name is Jenny Vaughn, and she
Excuse
is
me, what?
Jenny Vaughn.
Jenny. Okay.
Jenny, and she
Jenny.
is strapped into a chair with her eyes kind of just like pulled open
Yeah.
as she's staring at a screen. When
Well, they
Luthor-
have like things that are pulling her eyes open,
Yeah.
like that go into her skin.
But Luther has
Like, it's not great.
has shown up to check on her, and he goes, "Are you comfortable? Are all your needs being met?" I'll take that as a yes because she doesn't answer. But she's being
catatonic.
shown different pictures of Superman up there with like, look up in the sky, it's a bird, it's a
I
plane,
love how
it's
it's
Superman.
almost like Action Comics.
It is the cover.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's like a
cool.
recreation of the cover as he's like feeding her like all these things about Superman.
Yeah.
And he's like, "My dear, your expertise in viral infections is going to bring about such happiness. Imagine a world where Superman not only wants your help, but he's going to need it." Like pleasant dreams. He's now like filling her of like, because she was infatuated with Superman.
Yeah.
He's filling her with, we have something planned and you're going to be able to help him so much. And it's just her watching all these things then of like Superman in action. We then cut to the Daily Planet.
Is it weird that if I say it feels very Poison Ivy-esque, or not Poison Ivy, Harley Quinn-esque, like how she kind of immersed herself in all things Joker to
A little bit.
become like,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like
I get what you're saying
She
there.
almost brainwashed herself. They're kind of brainwashing her, but it feels
In a way, you know what it reminded me of, honestly?
What's that?
Kind of like a Clockwork Orange. At
Yeah,
least that
yeah,
scene
definitely
where,
Clockwork Orange, yeah, with the toothpicks in the end.
Yeah. But it's them force feeding her like whatever they want, her to believe and kind of.
Yeah, but she was already
kind of already
super infatuated.
up, so they probably pitched like, "Hey,
Yeah.
you want to help Superman out
Yeah.
since he's your angel? He helped you."
Yeah, I think,
and then they preyed upon her to do that.
Harley Quinn, she pushed herself over the edge. I think Luther is pushing this girl over the edge. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it also depends on which Harley you go with. There's
Sure.
the one they did in the movie where she like fell in the vat of acid too, or there's the
Yeah.
one where I've always liked from the animated series of Mad Lib, where she just like fell for him so much that she just know.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. She
Um,
pushed herself over the
yeah,
ledge,
yeah, yeah.
basically, because she was so infatuated. She was his doctor, right?
Yes, she
Yeah.
started out as his, like his therapist.
She was so infatuated with him. Yeah. Okay. All right. Sorry, I did.
No,
That's
you're
an
good.
aside, but I just kind of felt that way.
So we're at the Daily Planet now, and we see Lois is kind of hunched over her desk, like looking through Clark's notes. Is what it is. She's like, "What do we have here?" She like puts
With a
it
big bag
together,
of tater chips.
and Clark walks up behind her, and he's like, "What are you doing? Those are
God almighty,
personal."
he's so fucking
Yeah,
big.
he is. And she goes, "They looked like the notes, Clark. And you've got this part here about LL, as in Lois Lane. Like, what are you writing about?" And he goes, "Lana Lang." And she goes, "Oh, well then there you go. It's that kind of mistake that anybody would make, really."
What is the deal with all the LLs?
That's the thing. Remember, we covered that kind of a little bit last week too. Your initials have to be LL for him to be infatuated with you, and you have to be a member of the media of some sort.
Yeah, but I'm saying Lex Luthor also.
Oh, that's true.
So, I mean, why does-
comic books are notorious for alliteration? though.
LL.
And his name is Kel-El.
That's what I'm saying. That's what just hit my brain. I was like, oh, wait a minute. LL, yeah.
And
Huh.
and his first job was at LL Bean. It's just
That's right.
it's all coming
Yeah.
together.
And he just started his LLC.
But she goes, this is a competitive business, Smallville. How many people do you know that have the initials LL, huh?
Well, a bunch, apparently.
Yeah. We just, we figured out
Yeah.
at lunch. And then we see from Luth, I like this. So she's like we get cutting back and forth between two scenes. So it's her kind of like, she was obviously snooping and reading Clark's
and
notes.
now she's laying
and she's
into
now
him.
trying to lay
Yeah.
into him for what she was doing because she
Yeah.
got caught.
Yeah.
And we then get the juxtaposition of Lex at LexCorp, and you just see truth of his speech bubble.
Uh-huh.
And then it's back to the Daily Planet where Lois is like, in some ways, you ought to be apologizing to me. Clark, who? And she just kind of passes out into Clark's arms.
Yeah.
And we get back to
Justice.
Luther, who's Justice. And then Clark looks around
She all sweaty.
She is. Like, Lois collapses in his arms and asks, "Who is Lana Lang?" And Clark looks out at the rest of the Daily Planet.
Oh, no.
And everybody is collapsed. Look what we get back there from Perry White. We get a great Caesar's ghost, too, though.
Yeah, that's
So a nice little throwback.
Yeah, that's nice.
And yeah, everybody in the Daily Planet is just kind of collapsed on the floor. And he's like, Lois, come on. Like, he's trying to wake her up. And he's like, high fever, rapid pulse. What's going on here? And then it's just a full panel of Lex going in the American way.
Mm-hmm.
So we know exactly who's behind this. But, like, how? What?
Why?
So-
Where?
When? Who? So Superman drops down the elevator shaft, changes into a Superman
Pants
costume.
got very balloony.
They did. As we get more Lex Luthor kind of talk over it, imagine his confusion. Every instinct to rush into action will be frustrated as the city dies around him. He can bend still until
the
he is
entire
blue in the
city.
face. He can see through walls clear to China. He can even fly from here to the moon for all the good it will do him. And you see like a streak of the blue, yellow, and red of Superman
love
just going
that,
around
by the
the
way.
city. Yes. Of him moving. It's a great when he goes, this time there will be no one for him to bully.
Mm.
Like there's nobody for him to like. It's like he's like, he wants to show how big and strong he is.
Yeah.
What's he gonna do when there's nobody around then?
Yeah.
I love the way they wrote this too, because Luthor just seems so like I love the line that, what was it? Lex Luthor is forever. And then this, he's like a Dalmatian tied to the front of an empty fire truck, smelling the smoke, pulling ferociously at the leash, barking at the wind with no one to answer.
Wow.
And we see that since it has affected everybody, there's a train that is now the conductor is passed out on, and he has to land on the tracks and stop from it going haywire and crashing into the station.
Right.
And there's a lot of nice dual panel pages in
That's
this.
really nice.
And he looks there and he stops it, and the guy's sure
He's
enough, the
genuinely
conductor's
confused,
passed out.
and you don't often see that with Superman.
You don't. And Luthor keeps going. There will be no one left to say thank you. No crowds to cheer his good intentions. No child's smile to brighten his day. Like he's just really laying into him.
Yeah.
Superman goes back to Star Labs then, which would be the closest place in the DC universe to be like that deals with these kind of things and figuring out what happened.
Why do I know Star Labs?
The Flash.
Okay.
He works at Star Labs.
Yeah.
Well, no, I guess he works for the what are they? Not Coast City. What is where is anyway?
The Flash Brigade.
He works for the police, and then but also Star Labs is there.
I work for the police.
It's like one of the main like labs
Yeah.
for the DC universe.
He's a junior detective.
The professor, the chemist, the worker, the lab worker, the
Who's in a big old suit.
hazmat suit tells Superman that it's viral in nature. This disease seems to be able to attack and shut down the respiratory system in a matter of seconds. And she goes, I got lucky. I've been in a controlled atmosphere since last night.
If it shuts down the respiratory system, are they all dead?
Well,
Okay. All right. I'll give it time.
well, no. He goes, that would be my guess. Or he goes, then it's passed through there. She goes, that would be my guess. But it would be just that, a guess. She goes, it's incredibly pervasive. It may have been in the atmosphere for days or even weeks. Finally building to our reaching a saturation point like this. He's like, Professor Crosby, how do we stop it? It's all over the city. Like, you should have seen everyone at the Daily Planet. Lois and the professor tells him, if we had more time, like maybe we could find the original carrier, but you need someone who has the best people in biochemistry. Have you spoken with Luthor? And the look on Superman's face of knowing that he has to try to work with Lex Luthor to
not
figure
only
out what's
that,
up.
now he knows who's responsible.
And so he shows up, and Luthor goes, you can't come in. I'm fairly certain you can hear me with those heightened senses of yours. I've quarantined the building. I've got the entire floors of people who need medical care. And he's like, why weren't you affected? And he tells him, like, we've had certain floors that are, like, contaminated off from everything. A better question would be, why aren't you affected by all this, Superman?
Well, he's an alien.
And well, he's
number
like,
one.
what do you mean? And he goes, I mean, however your powers have manifested scientifically, biologically, maybe even alien in nature. And Superman's like, alien? And Lex tells him, who is it to say that you aren't the carrier of this virus?
He's an alien. Jesus is a zombie. I mean, there's those two things.
That Metropolis,
People never mentioned.
that Metropolis, or perhaps all of mankind, faces extinction because of you. Like he's trying to play something. Maybe you're the one who brought this.
Yeah.
And he's like, who's gonna believe you? And he
Well, it's kind of
sits there.
brilliant, honestly. If you're going to attack Superman in the public, that's the way
That's
to
the
do it. Yeah.
And he's like, and who's to say you aren't the cause behind all this madness, huh, Luthor? Like, you haven't been exposed to you haven't exposed the entire city for some kind of military chemical weapon. Who's to say you haven't done that?
Yeah.
If I were to crash through that glass and drag you out here, how long before someone from Lep's core employee would appear with the antidote is what Superman tells him, kind of. And he has his Finch clips ready to smash through, and he kind of stops himself. And he's like, I can't take that chance. I'm asking you, can you just help?
Mm-hmm.
So
What the?
Lex presents Miss Jenny Vaughn to come out, and he goes, fortunately, there is hope.
This is the chick they've been feeding all the stuff to, right?
He goes, this is Miss Jenny Vaughn. Now, Miss Vaughn, you might have met her during the summer. You remember, like, you saved her from that fire.
Yeah.
She's also a great biochemist, and she has concocted a
She looks like
mixture.
a biochemist in that getup.
She does.
Yeah.
She's concocted a unique mixture of chemicals, which, if administered right, like, will help save all this. And see the clouds, it'll rain down, and everybody will be fine. And he's like, fine, give me the chemicals. And Luther goes, no. If the ingredients are exposed improperly, you'll doom us instead.
She's just like a space wrestler.
And she is. And he goes, she only wants to help you. Like the fair city, she loves you, Superman. Let her just help you. And he's like, I can't let Miss Vaughn, like, knowingly endanger herself. And Jenny goes, no, the name's Toxin. That's my new name, like Superman.
Name's Toxic?
Toxin.
Oh, Toxin.
And she goes, that's my new name, like Superman.
Okay.
And she has like a mask on kind of that she's
Yeah.
wearing. And she
Luther's
says,
wearing one too.
Yeah.
Same thing.
like a respirator kind of to make sure
Yeah.
they don't breathe in, whatever. And she goes, Mr. Luther tells me you can fly faster and more accurately than a helicopter. And he goes, I can. She goes, let's go then. He's like, all right, Luther, I'll be back. And Lex just goes, yes. Yes, you will. As he flies off with her.
Goodness.
So they fly through. And he tells, like, I remember once as a child, my father, a man whose sole contribution to society was siring me, set out to punish me with the back of his hand. He sounded almost a tirade as he promised that this is going to hurt me, like hurt him a lot more than it would hurt me. As we see, like, Superman, like, flying her around as she's shooting, seeding all the clouds with this mixture that she has in, like, her chemical gun, I guess. I don't know.
Chemical gun.
Lex says,
They helped it for Nirvana back in the 90s.
Oh,
Chemical
yeah,
gun.
that's true. And Mud Honey.
Yeah. Mud Honey. Wow, I haven't heard
nice.
anybody say Mud Honey in a while.
There you go. But Lex continues, my father beat me repeatedly, intent on making me cry. I did not cry. I looked my father right in the face until he was done. In the end, it did hurt him more than it hurt me. Is kind of what Lex is telling him. As it starts to rain and people are slowly waking up from all this then, from
Lex
the
heard
rain
his
coming.
Papa.
He did.
Papa.
Like, Lois wakes up and she's like, where's Clark? Like, here's his coat.
Yeah.
And it's now a full-on just storm as it's raining down, like The Cure kind of. And he goes, I learned from my father to always give the people what they want, but always at a price. So Superman lands with her, and he's realizing that, all right, Superman's landing. He goes, you've done a very good job, Toxin. And she goes, really? Oh, you can't know how much that means to me. And she starts coughing.
Yeah.
And he's like, Miss Vaughn, Toxin. And Luther, I love the lightning strike of him just staring out of like a dejected Superman over her body. And she's like, her heart, it stopped, is what Superman's saying, listening to it. And Luther goes, my medical staff will handle it from here, Superman. Poor thing, overexposure to the very virus she cured. She will be missed, a true hero. They say you can change the course of mighty rivers, but you have so little understanding of how fragile the human condition is, how easily all life can be lost. Being the most powerful man in the world means nothing if you are all alone. No one knows that better than I, is what he tells him as he leaves Superman there to kind of walk away.
What I don't understand, though, is why all the training for her if you're just going to send her up there and kill her? Okay.
So
all right,
Luther
I'll wait.
goes, go back to wherever you came from.
I'll hang up and
before
wait
you-
for my answer.
He goes, go back to wherever you came from before you fail us all. And then we get back to Smallville, and we have more Lex Luthor narration that just says, this was a love story, tragedy, and revenge, as the Kents are out on the front porch, and they're just talking, and all of a sudden the dog kind of peeks up, and Jonathan goes, Clark? And Clark is there, and he goes, I think I need to stay here in Smallville for a while. So what Luthor has done is he has used the death of Miss Jenny Vaughn to make Superman realize he can't save everybody. No matter what, that's the thing. Like, he feels now that he has failed the situation and failed, like, the city, and there's nothing he can do about it. And it's kind of created a dejected Superman. So Lex Luthor's plan has worked as it takes us to winter, where Clark is now back in Smallville. Issue 4 is narrated by the other LL, Miss Lana Lang.
Gene Hackman.
Gene Hackman, the coach from Hoosiers.
Well, he was also Lex Luthor.
Yeah, that is true. He
That's right.
was.
Yeah.
We see So this whole story for Lana is about kind of her feelings for Clark and the realization of that he was meant for more and better things, and that she couldn't have that life that she thought she wanted with him because of the powers he has and what he wanted to do and who he wanted to help.
Yeah.
But we do this through the story of them going back to Smallville and all kind of reconnecting in Smallville there.
Okay.
We do see Metropolis without Superman. The kid from the very beginning, remember who he saved, who told him had a really cool costume, and then his mom, or Superman tells him his mom made it for him.
Mm-hmm.
He's playing with snowballs up off the ledge of the roof, and this time it's the Lex Luthor drones that are there, patrolling the city, taking care of everything. It's a Metropolis without Lex Luthor, and Lex Luthor is so happy that there's
without Superman, not
I'm
Lex
sorry.
Luthor. Yeah.
It is a Metropolis without Superman, and Lex Luthor is so happy that there is no Superman there. No sign, no word, all as it should be. He's just so excited about all this. Lois is confused because obviously there's no Superman, and there's also no Clark Kent. She goes, she's looking at his
put
desk.
two and two together
empty.
there, Lois.
Well, she goes, and you, Smallville, picked a very convenient time to take some personal days, almost as if you knew that in the dead of winter, everything around here would just be dead.
Well, he's also wide as a fucking train. I mean, he's huge,
Well,
just like Superman.
She goes, no big stories, no splashy headlines, no Superman. How would you possibly know where Superman was or wasn't going to be unless, as she's sitting at his desk thinking about, gets her sitting there thinking about it, and she just goes, Lois Lane, that's the stupidest idea you've had in the world. And she just sets it back down.
Well, that's the one cool thing about the Hulk, right? It's a completely different person.
I get it.
You know what I'm saying?
I get it. But at the same time, I think, and I'll use the movie, the current trailer we have as an example, he looks goofy as Clark Kent.
Uh-huh.
Are there similarities? Yes. But
yeah, a couple.
If you weren't, I would argue if you weren't looking for it, you wouldn't find it.
Okay.
I'm telling you.
I don't know, man. It goes back to the domino mask and the whole thing. It's just one little change and you're a completely different person. It's so weird.
Yeah, fine. Fair
I
enough.
guess it's the librarian thing, though. How the librarians
I
are
let
all,
my hair down.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They shake it out, and all of a sudden they're sexy.
Yeah.
Take your glasses off.
Yeah, exactly.
This is in the reverse.
Superman's back at home telling him, you want me to do this? I could fly you. And Lana's like, no, we're going to walk. You've done that once. I'm good. I don't mind walking. I haven't been here in a while. Let me kind of.
I love how she knows that he can fly.
Well, remember because
yeah. I know, but I'm just saying that's kind of a loose end.
A little bit.
He really should just break her neck and leave her in the snow.
He's not Homelander. He realizes Lana's not going to say anything about it.
Okay.
But she's also making fun of him. I don't know a lot of grown men who still wear their high school letter jackets too.
Yeah, you big dipshit.
But they just kind of walk and they reminisce, and Clark kind of tells her
all small towns ever have that bridge right there.
They do, for sure.
Madison County, #1.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Lana kind of asks him what he's doing back, in Smallville, and Clark tells her, I'm trying to figure out, a bunch of stuff. And she
Plus,
goes,
I had a coupon for the subway over on
she
Main.
goes, Superman stuff? Clark, you can do anything. And he goes, can I? And she goes, okay, that should do it. And it's them making, snow angels in the...
Yeah, his looks like a snow penis.
It looks like a snow spaceship, actually.
Yeah, I know. Spaceships look like penises.
But they end up going and they meet Pete at the general store again for lemonades. Good old Pete Ross. So it's the three of them back again, for the first time since high school.
Does Pete Ross turn into something in other comic books?
Maybe he might in some. I don't know.
I thought he turned into a bad guy at one point.
Maybe my Pete Ross knowledge isn't too big.
God damn it! Get up on your Pete Ross knowledge.
I need to up my Bob Ross knowledge now.
Bob Ross is different. Yeah,
we do see
villain.
one of the guys that was playing cards earlier is no longer there. It's showing that Smallville is still changing. He's in the hospital with an attack of it wasn't a heart attack, but it turned out to be angina. But he's still a guy down.
Turned out to be what?
Angina.
Oh, angina.
Yeah, it turns out to be they're a man down in the card game, but it's just showing you that things are still the same, but still changing there in Smallville too. Pete kind of chastises the two of them for winding up back here still. You went out to, or you're in Metropolis to Clark. He's like, you go out into the big wide world, the both of you, and then you come back here to all places, Smallville, like capital S and small, and you want to know like what the worst part of it is. You can't even see how wrong it is. Like, you guys, like, why are y'all back here? Like, go out and do things. Lana joins the Kents for dinner as they all sit there and they are getting ready to feast on this nice looking turkey, man. There's a knock on the door.
I'm sorry. In Alan Moore's Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow, Pete is captured by Toyman and Prankster and tortured into revealing Superman's true identity.
We covered that.
That's what I'm saying. I knew it came from somewhere. That's the reason I looked
forgot.
it up.
Yes, because he shows up like Pete Ross is dead in the box.
Pete Ross, he knows Superman's identity, but as Superboy for the most part is what this is saying.
So it would be around the same time that. Okay, in this story, then, it would be about the same time that Lana probably found out.
The Legion of Superheroes was aware of Pete's assistance to Clark and made him an honorary member during his teenage years.
So here's another thing. So remember when, with the last Superman's girlfriend Lois Lane we covered, when he's on Lana Lang's TV show, she's like, well, we've known each other since you were Superboy.
Yeah.
So he would have known him and Pete Ross.
Yeah. So that does kind of explain the loose ends thing, right, with both her and Pete.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. All right. Sorry, it was a little bit of an aside, but I had to get some clarification there because I knew the name.
No, you're good. So the cop shows up to let him know, like, hey, guys, like, the Cedar Bluff Reservoir is running over and the Smoky Hill River.
So big.
They are. And the Smoky Hill River is spilling out everywhere. Like, there's going to be a pretty bad flood. Like, and they ask him if they can, like, why don't you come in and get warm for a bit? And he's like, I appreciate it, guys, but I got to go warn everybody else that, we're in for a bad flood, and you can see the water's already kind of rising up to his car there.
Mm-hmm.
So
and they seem to be elevated anyway, but if it's getting up there already.
Mm-hmm. So there's a massive flood, and Lana's like, nothing like having a son who. So they're all talking about Martha and Jonathan. They're like, it's been a long time since we've had a flood like this. Like, Mother Nature's kicking up her heels. If we need to, we'll set out at daybreak. And he goes, then we'll all be fine, right, Clark? And he's like, yes, sir. And Lana's looking out the window and goes, nothing like having a son who can change the course of mighty rivers. And they look and they go, what? And that's about the time where Clark just goes, she knows. They're like, she knows?
Yeah.
And she goes, I know. So everybody kind of knows
Her eyes are so wide set.
They are.
She's got a big old fish head.
There's a moment where Superman is talking to his dad and he goes, Pa,
I love how we keep coming back to this
the same room scene.
Yeah, whether it's here or whether it's in Metropolis, one or the other, it all kind of looks the same.
It's the same of him like thinking and like trying to figure out things in life with a different kind of backdrop.
I'm assuming at some point there would be a scene like this, but it would be in the Fortress of Solitude as well.
Yeah,
it just seems like you repeat this thing no matter where he's at. This is the way he thinks.
Exactly,
and that would be Krypton instead of Jimmy the dog or whatever his name is.
Crypto?
Yeah, Crypto.
He goes, Pa, I began to think that I could do anything, and I can't. And he sits there, and his father tells him kind of a story about, like, the first year that he came in, like, the way their corn crop came up, he was the talk of the town.
Yeah.
And he goes, and I got so full of myself, and I thought every year's harvest was going to be
corn.
like this. But it was like every harvest was going to be like this.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
It's a goofy story,
He
but
goes,
yeah, I get it.
Next 2 years, didn't get anything off of it.
No corn.
Yeah, he goes, it's not nearly as hard learning that you have limitations as it is learning how to work within them.
It's true.
And he goes, over time, I'd like to think that I got pretty damn good at farming in a sense. And he goes, and over time, son, like, you're going to, or that's what he tells me. He's like, over time. Like, I didn't just go in and figure out, I know how to do everything.
Yeah.
So
that is one of the hardest things in the world to teach a kid, by the way. Patience and just looking at the big picture.
Yeah.
Very hard.
Well, it's hard to teach some adults.
Well, it's hard.
Also,
It's hard in general, but I'm saying that some people are better at it than others. But for kids especially, and I consider Superman still a kid at this point, that's got to be a really hard thing to get through his thick metal skull.
Absolutely. Martha's helped setting up, like, the couch for Lana to stay over for the flood. And she goes, I'm glad that Clark chose you to share secrets with you.
I love the small thing that it's a quilt, not just a single colored cover.
No, and it's, yes.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, that is a very small thing in the overall story here, but it's a very integral piece in that this is a farm. They are a small town.
It would be like Martha would have knitted a quilt like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Lana goes, it has its moments. And she goes, I'm sure it does. You know, Lana, the right woman can often help the right man find the answers he's looking for. She goes, I don't know if a girl from Smallville has very many answers for Superman. And Martha looks at her and goes, Clark, like, you of all people know that, like, he might have an S on his chest still, but he's still our Clark.
Yeah,
Like,
sure.
that's what he is.
Yeah.
Not Superman. The next morning, it's like he's kind of dressed. I love that he's dressed in a Superman outfit, which is a trench coat on.
With a trench coat.
Yeah,
It's like the Thing.
Yeah, it is. But as they're like loading stuff in the back of the truck to kind of make their way out from the flood, and so they all leave, and Lana tells him, Clark, I don't know what it's like to bend still with my bare hands or like run faster than a speeding bullet, but I do know what it's like to have my whole life planned out in my head and then have it all yanked out from underneath me. And he's like trying to stop her, and she tells him to shut up. And
Is
she
it
goes,
weird that I like her more than Lois?
No, I think she's
Okay.
very likable in this. She's
very
very
down to
likable
earth.
in this.
Yeah, she's way like.
And she
more
goes,
likable.
just, you know, like, just shut up and listen. Like, you may be able to do all these things nobody else can do, but that doesn't make it any less hard to be who you are.
Yeah.
She goes, and in case you're wondering, like, the boy I grew up with who was so noble and caring, he's still inside that costume there.
Yeah.
And she goes, so go make things safe, Superman.
Yeah.
And that's when he kind of like flies off, and it's him then streaking through town. It's all three men from like the card game.
When you say
there.
streaking, he still has his
Not-
clothes on and he is flying. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's the red,
Yeah.
yellow, and
Yeah.
blue streak that we get.
No need for a mature label on this.
No, not at all. And it's him like going through town as you see all the.
I
men
do love
there.
that flash of color though when he flies. I think.
Oh,
that's
absolutely.
fucking cool.
Oh, it's so cool.
Damn it, mature label.
Yeah, that's fine. We're already like 30 minutes into it. YouTube can't take it from us at this point. Or 40 minutes in. So it's him like going through, and they're all kind of astonished of like, Superman, he's here to like, you know, save us. It's like Tom Landers with his mouth open and not a peep coming out. Like even the people of Smallville.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
And there's a nice little dual page of he's like, all right, Lana, I'll make things safe, as he's like using her as inspiration, looking down there. And it's him like moving trees out of the way to try to dam up, like the dead trees to try to dam up some of the water.
Super Beaver.
It's him throwing rocks and moving stuff to try to dam it up. It's him trying to save
Yeah.
Smallville.
Yeah.
So
Trying to hold back a flood.
they try to cross that bridge, that great old
Yeah.
bridge that
Yeah.
they were wanting to cross, and unfortunately, it does not work for them.
Goes kaboosh.
And it does go kaboosh. I think that's what you said, right?
I say kaboosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are they all dead?
No, that's it.
Oh.
End of winter.
Oh, okay.
No.
That's it. Bye, guys.
Superman is able to show up and save them all
Yeah. Oh,
just in
like
time.
that.
Yeah, it's a
That's
nice little
kick-ass,
shot. And he's like,
yeah.
"I'm here, Mom," and he saves them all and takes them all to shore. And then they realize, like, well, where's Dad? And he's looking for him, and he sees him hanging on by a branch out there. It's his hand with the wedding ring, and he flies down there, and he's able to rescue his dad in time too. As he goes, and he like coughs too, and he's like, "You can put me down now." And he sits there, and everybody's safe except who, Mike?
Well, except for the dog.
Exactly. So,
Jimmy the dog.
Jimmy, the dog that you have.
What's the dog's name?
What? Of course you would
It's Jimmy.
ask me that right at
Jimmy
the
the
end.
dog.
It's whatever they called. They called it.
I don't remember.
I don't remember who
Yeah.
they.
Barco.
Polo. That was the dog's name.
Barco Polo.
And so everybody's safe. The town has been rescued thanks to Superman. The flood has been avoided, and the preacher's there hosting like a vigil. I don't know if you call it a vigil of them talking about like, oh, we were all saved and we're all thankful for,
Yeah.
you know,
They do have candles, so I would assume it's a vigil.
I guess maybe for the people who died. He's like, you know, but we're truly thankful for everything that happened and for the future that we have now.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm freezing up a bit. We get Lana as she's sitting there talking about like, I went halfway around the world and found out that I never really left Smallville at all. It was more than just the memories of this town. Like she's reminiscing, talking about how she kind of found herself there.
Sure.
And I guess Clark and I weren't so different after all, too. As he flies back off and she just yells at him to take care. As we get back to Metropolis,
Mm-hmm.
and we now see that streak, again, the streak of Superman, not him actually streaking, but the
Yeah,
blue, yellow,
but
and red.
He's gotten his second wind, as it were, at this point. And
Superman-
now he's ready to go kick what's his name's ass.
Yeah, he's gotten his groove back.
Yeah.
And we get the head.
Him and Stella.
Yeah, him and Stella have gotten their groove back.
Sure.
We get the headline of the Daily Planet where it tells them that Superman stops flood, written
Yeah.
by Clark Kent.
Yeah.
And Perry's so happy about this. He's like, I wish all my reporters would take some time off and come back with headlines like this. And Lois is just absolutely fuming. I was like, come on, how could you do that to me, Smallville?
My hips aren't wide enough to hold my contention for you.
And so he's like, I don't know, Lois. I guess I just got lucky of being able to be there in the right place at the right time, kind of
Finding
to find
such
that
giant
story.
pants.
And it shows, we get kind of it all coming back around where it shows Luthor looking out the window watching his robots
His robots.
patrol the city, and
Yeah.
that little kid again
Yeah.
chasing after that damn cat
Yeah.
as they're rolling around trying to stop, and he falls off the building again like this stupid kid is always going to as we're lagging up in StreamYard. And he's able to catch him and save him again as Luthor sees like, damn it. And Superman tells the bot, tell Luthor, I'm back. As Luthor's just thinking to himself, like, someday I'll be able to finally get rid of Superman once and for all. And Superman sits there and meets the kid, and he's like, hey, I'm Trevor, but everybody calls me Trev. And he goes, nice to meet you, Trev, as he sits down and, shakes the kid's hand
Punches his skull through the planet.
after giving him the cat back. And he's like, folks call me Superman, as it's kind of like the end of the credits, like jetting off, and he's like
Yeah.
found his groove back, like you said. And that closes the story of
That's
Superman
it?
for all seasons. Yeah.
So there's no conclusion.
No, it's the setting up of, like, that's the whole story. What do you mean there's no conclusion?
There's no real conclusion here.
What needed to be wrapped up?
I don't know. He should have punched Lex Luthor in the crotch or something.
He's going. This is like the first. It's like the tee-hee-hee. This is a prequel. Like,
all right. Okay. All right. Okay.
I don't know.
All right. No, it's very good. Don't get me wrong. It's just I really thought something was gonna. I thought there was something else.
all right, well,
But
no, that was it.
okay, so the woman with the toothpicks in her eyes, she's dead.
Yeah,
Everybody else is fine now because she seeded the clouds.
yeah,
Superman got his groove back.
yeah,
Lex has been thwarted, kind of.
yeah.
Okay. All right.
And there you go. That's
So it's
Superman
just
for all seasons.
it's almost an origin story, but it's not.
Yeah, it's just like
Right? You see what it's like the origin of him and Lex, basically.
it's kind of like the first trial of Superman, right? Just think about, like, it's the first big, like,
Yeah.
hurdle.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah.
That is Superman for All Seasons Part 2 as we wrapped it up. Thank you guys, as always, for taking the time out to watch, for listening. We appreciate it very much.
Hey, you're welcome. Oh, you were talking to them.
I was talking to everybody
Sorry.
else. Make sure to check out Rogue Media Network and all the other fantastic podcasts on the Rogue Media Network family of podcasts.
RogueMediaNetwork.com, and then he talked over me.
I did. You want to say it again?
RogueMediaNetwork.com.
That's fine. StreamYard is like, so I can't scroll
It
to
is
the
a little
open.
laggy right now. Yeah. I'm not real sure what's going on.
I don't know either. I'm trying to. Oh, there we go. So, as if it's might let me play it, it might not let me play it. It's not.
Let's say it anyway.
We'll do it. Until next time. Stay safe, everybody.
Hey, you over there. Golly con.
Pros and heroes. Gonna tell you about pros and heroes. Gonna tell you about.
This has been a Rogue Media Network